with sine, and then we're also going to look at a couple problems finding some missing pieces and just how do you work through them. So the first one is, you guys know that the area of a triangle is equal to, area is equal to 1/2 the base times the height. And that's what you had when you were in geometry. An alternate form is the area of the triangle is 1/2 side A times side B times the sine of angle C. So this is the kind of thing that, again, like we've been talking all last week and this week, is if you have angle C here and angle A here and angle B here, then this is side B and this is side A. And notice that in this formula, you have two sides and the included angle. So this form works when you have two sides and the included angle. So the two sides that make up the angle. So if you have it in this form, you can use it. So for example, take this problem right here, and it says you got IJK. Again, doesn't matter, but you probably should get in the habit of drawing the triangle, because if you don't, chances are you'll come up with some weird numbers. But K, side K is 81 inches, side I is 65 inches, and angle J is 28 degrees. So inches, inches, and degrees. Find the area. So the area of this triangle, IJK, is actually equal to 1/2 81, 65, and then the sine of 28. And that's how you find it. And that's just something you put into Desmos, right? I mean, you go to Desmos, go to the graphing calculator. Remember that the graphing calculator is in radians. You need to switch it to degrees. And then you're going to put in, you put 0.5 times 81 times 65 times, and then you can just type in the sine 28, and you come up with 1235.88, and that would actually be in inches squared because it's area. So the solution, and they got it right there. So that should be pretty straightforward for you. You should be able to do that. And then we're going to talk about this one here. So this is just another example. So remember that the law of sines is equal to the sine of angle A divided by A is equal to the sine of angle B divided by B is equal to the sine of angle C divided by C. If you haven't done the law of sines, you got to go back to get that. Or A divided by the sine of A is equal to B divided by the sine of B is equal to C divided by the sine of C. So you should know that one, either form, and we'll use them. The law of cosines, talked about it yesterday. Law of cosines is C squared equal to A squared plus B squared minus 2 times A times B times the cosine of angle C. We may end up using it in here. I'm not real sure, but what I do know is I can also use right triangle trigonometry. And what that is the sine is the opposite over the hypotenuse, the cosine is the adjacent over the hypotenuse, and the tangent is the opposite over the adjacent. So when you have a problem like this one, so all that's review, right? I mean, we've done that stuff. When you have a problem like this one that's given, and you got a bunch of different things in here, you got a line coming down here, this is 62 degrees, this is 1.8, this is 78, and this is a right angle, and they're asking you to find that piece. You can do a lot of different things on this. You got to find some missing pieces before you can jump right to that side. We need to have some other pieces on here. We can find some other pieces. One of the things that we know that we're going to need is this angle right here. That angle is 180 minus 78 minus 90. You could find that if you needed to. The other thing that you should look for is, wow, if I knew if I was in this situation where I knew if I could find out this angle, so let's say I just find this missing angle that I have right here. So let me do that real quick on my calculator. 180 minus 78 minus 90, and I see that this one is 12 degrees. And if I go back, I can actually find this angle as well, because notice that that angle is part of this big triangle right here. So if I look at that big triangle right there, and I look at this whole thing right here, I can find that whole missing piece. I'll color it in a different color. So let me color it in pink. So if I wanted to find that piece, I could do 180 minus 62 minus 90. So 180 minus 62 minus 90. And I got 28. That means if that whole thing is 28, that means this little green part right here, this little green part is 28 minus 12, or 16. Now, since I know that that's 16, that's a really important piece, because now what I can do is I can kind of highlight this triangle. Let me highlight it in green. Let me take a look at this triangle right here. And if I could find this missing piece, that would help me figure out what to do with this triangle. So let me find that missing piece x. That missing piece x is x divided by the sine of 62 is equal to 1.8 divided by the sine of 16, if you look at that triangle, and that green one. So from here, x is equal to 1.8 divided by the sine of 16 times the sine of 62. So if I go over here, I do 1.8 divided by the sine, I could use this keyboard here, divided by the sine of 16. And I do times sine of 62. And I get that it's 5.7, right? So x is equal to 5.766. Now if that's 5.766, let's go back to the problem. That's this piece right here. So now let's look at the pink triangle. color it in, I'll use pink. But if this side right here is 5.766, I think that's what it said, 5.766. What we can do is now we can use this pink triangle, and notice that this side is the hypotenuse. This side is the hypotenuse. This side is the adjacent. And we could use regular sine, cosine, tangent. We could say that the cosine of 78 is equal to the adjacent, we'll call this y divided by 5.766. And then if we just multiply by 5.766 times the cosine of 78, we could get that answer. We could just go, okay, 5.766 times the cosine of 78, and we get y is equal to 1.1988. And that's what we got right down here. So so you can do law of sines, and they used law of sines on this whole thing. You could see what they did, but I just used the cosine. So you can use all kinds of things, but you got to find missing pieces. It's going to be really helpful for you to kind of find missing pieces. Go back and look at this example and do your best.